Pete Davidson just completed his seventh season of Saturday Night Live. I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby here with Pete. And I wanted to just start out by just going back to the first six episodes of the season before the election.
Right.
Crazy time. How would you describe that time from your perspective?
I mean, compared to how things are now, which is still like, I guess you would say the fourth quarter of COVID, I guess, where it's, things start to seem hopeful on the horizons. It was like, it was still kind of like 4 months in where everybody like was afraid to even go outside. So when we got the call that we were going to be able to go back to work, we were all so thrilled, but also just like, how the fuck is this going to work? And they were like, everything's going to be on Zoom except for like the table read and rehearsals. And we're like, okay, so the whole fun part of the show is going to be taken away, which is the hang. So we're like, okay. So we got like tested every day, sometimes twice or three times for like 9 months straight. And like it got pretty regular towards the middle of the season, but the first six episodes was just so wild because they were like, it was like Jim Carrey and the election, and like the last election was so traumatic for everybody. And like, when you're a part of a show that does political humor, and it's like, you're like, I remember the six episodes leading up to the last election, and we were like, oh great, it's Alex here. And then we all thought Trump was going to lose, and then we were like, oh shit, we have to deal with like 4 years of Trump cold open. So like it was just such a, like, we were like, oh man, I hope we don't have to do this story like again. Like and everybody was just super riddled with anxiety because nobody's seen anybody in such a long amount of time, and there was no vaccine, and there was only maybe 10 or so things in production at all. And it was really scary, but also it was really nice because I would have just been on my couch, FaceTiming my therapist like I was every day in the pandemic, and then hearing my therapist be like, I don't know when this is going to end. And then they were like, I'm kind of like pissed too. And you're like, oh, my therapist is stressed out. You're like, this isn't good. So it was really nice to be back at work and back at 30 Rock. And I had this was my favorite season so far, or like the most, where everybody was just like, let's put on a show and have fun and, write some weird, silly shit because everybody's so stressed out. So it was definitely like the weirdest batch of sketches I've ever seen, and the weirdest circumstances. But I think the most memorable season I've certainly had there and will have there. So.
Well, you actually did a lot of the pre-tape musical pieces this season, which has
Yeah.
kind of become your specialty. One that I thought was a very obvious highlight was Stu, your parody of Stan. How did that whole idea come about?
Dan Bola and Steve Castillo called me and they were like, we want to do a Stan parody. And I was like, cool. I was like, now? And he was like, but it's Stan writing letters to Santa. And I was like, oh, that's the greatest idea ever. I was like, that's so great. I was like, you sure you don't want like someone else to do it so it's like good? And they were like, well, you're kind of the only one that fits the profile. And I was like, oh, fair enough. So yeah, they called with that, and we just did a couple Zooms, and it was really fun. We're gonna make it look exactly like the video, and we got to talk with Eminem and his team, and Eminem sent in a video, and it was just kind of like a little early Christmas present for me, because I just like I don't get to do a lot of stuff that's a stretch on that show, but I get to do, when I get to do stuff like that, it just reminds me of, how fun and enjoyable the job could be. And I had a great time working with those guys. And yeah, and then it came out and it turned out, I think, as good as we could have imagined. So yeah, that was like, I think one of my favorite moments ever at the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one you did was Weird Little Flute, which
Yeah.
reminded me of just how all over the place you were on the Timothy Chalamet episode. It seemed like the two of you really had a great bond going on there.
Yeah.
Can you talk about working with Timothy and what that particular week was like?
Yeah. Timothy's really, it's annoying because he's really attractive and talented, and usually you're only allowed one, like I am. And I don't know which one it is. So
the internet is always debating.
Yeah, it's debatable on both sides. So he's just one of those people that you're like, what the fuck's up with this kid? And then you meet him and you're like, oh yeah, I get it. Charming, nice, talented. I get it. And then, I knew him a little bit before because we were mutual friends with Cuddy and hung out with him a little bit. He's a really nice dude and easy to work with. And he surprised me a bunch. Like, he really turned it on and took everything super seriously and was super just easy to work with. And like, most people that come to do the show are always on their best behavior, but like, you could tell when it's genuine or when it's phoned in, and he was definitely one of the more genuine ones. So we had a great time.
Yeah. You could tell. And you also get to reprise your iconic role of Chad multiple times this season.
Yeah.
For those who don't remember, he's just a guy who kind of goes along with anything, very agreeable, no matter how dangerous or wild the situation is.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about playing Chad?
It's the easiest thing ever. Literally, when I find out that they're doing a Chad during the week, I get so excited because I'm just like, oh, great. It's all on the host, because the host has all this dialogue and all this build up and like such a dramatic performance. And then it just cuts to me just saying like, all right, okay. So it's fun for me because I don't have to memorize any lines or do any work at all. And I get to watch these multi-millionaires put on Oscar-worthy performances, and they just get an okay back. And to me, that's just like, I know we've done like 10 of them, but it just always makes me giggle because it's just so ridiculous. Like having like Benedict Cumberbatch give these monologues to this big idiot just really makes me laugh. So the fact that we got to close it out with Elon before Chad dies is pretty great. I don't think you could have a better trajectory. You start with Julia Louis-Dreyfus as a pool boy, and he ends up on Mars with Elon Musk. So it's a great trajectory.
Yeah, what a life.
Yeah.
So you also obviously did a number of weekend updates this season, but the one I wanted to highlight was your last one in the finale. And, you were talking about the pandemic, but there was a bit of a bittersweet feeling to it, perhaps a bit of a finality. Can you describe how you were feeling that week of the finale, just after everything that, you were talking about from the beginning of the season, and now having gotten to this, like, fully vaxxed audience, and what that energy was like that last week?
Yeah, I think like it was an emotional week just because, speaking for myself, like, I don't know what the plan is. So, everything's kind of up in the air right now, just depending on scheduling. And it is my 7th year, and that's what the contract's usually for. So it was really emotional. It was, I worked with these guys for a fourth of my life, and I've been in that. I started there with like acne and left with tattoos, and it was it's just like a very crazy long period of time, and wasn't ready to for the season to end yet, because I was really having so much fun. And um, it also just watching from going from a 1/3 of an audience to half an audience to 3/4 of an audience, and then the last show was a full audience for the first time. Like, just hearing that laugh, like the full room laugh, like, because in that studio there would be pockets, so you would hear like a little bit over here, a little over here, something, and you'd be like, is this fucking funny? Like, is this going well? Like, I don't know. Like, we were all just so confused. And then that last show, there was no confusion at all. Everything was just like bam, bam, bam. And it was just like so emotional. It made me like very emotional, like to be able to perform in front of a full crowd again. It's just, again, another thing I took for granted, that I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. This is like what I started this stuff for, is to do this. So it was just like it was just a crazy night,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I found it pretty touching, the last few comments you made on that weekend update about, gratitude and growing up on the show. I was curious if you'd be willing to get into any specifics about what you're most grateful for from your time on the show, and maybe even who you're most grateful for as far as other cast members or writers or crew, anyone.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite there will always be Lorne, just because from day one, he's always been really understanding of me. Like, I've been like in and out of rehabs, and I'm pretty much the Dennis Rodman of the cast, where like, I've had some wild, embarrassing, very public moments, and that guy never looked at me differently, never treated me differently, was always very understanding, never made me feel like my job was in jeopardy, or that he was mad. I mean, I definitely think he was concerned, and there was a lot of concerning moments and a lot of serious conversations that needed to be had, but it was always from a loving place. And I owe that guy my career. As far as cast, everyone has been super acceptable and great to me. I mean, the ones that stand out to me, to name names, I guess, Keenan, Colin, Kate, and 80. They've always just been like, from the jump, just always there for me. So, I definitely, everybody's been great, but there's definitely like a few people there that like have showed me extra love, and got me through some really tough times. And I'm just like, like I said at the end of the episode, just really grateful and appreciative of them and the show. Because if I was on, a fucking Fox sitcom or like any of that shit when a lot of my shit was happening, I don't know if I'd have a job, and they, kept me around, and I got to, in my eyes, redeem myself. So, yeah, just like endless thanks to those guys.
Yeah. You've certainly had some interesting comments, in the press about maybe this being the end
Yeah.
of your run. You kind of were talking about it a little bit before, but can you provide any kind of a status update on just how you're feeling now?
I mean, right now it's still it's all up in the air. I got to talk to Lauren and see what the best move is for, it's a big cast. There's a lot of new guys in there, and there's a lot of great new talent that it's their, time to shine. So, I have no idea what's going on right now, but I do know that whatever it is, I'll, always work with Broadway Video and Lauren and, a bunch of those guys, because, we're a family. So we're like the Fast and the Furious. It's all about family over there. So yeah, I wish I had more, but that's pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking to things outside of SNL, I wanted to also talk about your stand-up. I don't know how much you're able to really get out there even now, but I know you did a set in the fall that was like a socially distanced kind of situation, but now
Yeah.
restrictions lifted. How are you feeling about getting out there now and being able to do what you do?
It's really nice. I honestly just been going to hang. There's just like so many great stand-ups, and like uh I don't know if this is like it sounds right in my head, but like I want like there's a whole wave of like everybody's going to stand up right now. And like if I was going to a stand-up show and I had the option to see Chappelle, Mulaney, Burr, Schumer, Rock, Jon Stewart. I mean, I can keep going. Like I would go see those guys first. So I'm kind of letting all of them tour, and then once they're done, I will hit all those cities and get the scraps.
Right.
So
let the A team go.
yeah. Just let the A team go, and I'm the backup for sure. But I have been going to hang. It's nice to see again. It's great to be in the club and hear laughter and full stage, and everybody's not freaking out, and it's nice. It's really nice.
Well, again, looking to the future, you're going to be in a pretty big movie in a few months, Suicide Squad.
Yes.
Is there anything you can share about, if not plot details or character details, then just at least what that experience was actually like for you?
Yes. I can't, I purposely didn't read the whole script, only my stuff, because I like didn't want to know. I've just read so many interviews of like people fucking up and accidentally saying shit, and I'm just like, not me. I have no idea what's going on. I just show up when I'm told to show up. But I had the greatest time. Like, I mean, when you get to do a superhero movie and James Gunn is involved, it's just like the Apatow and Lorne Michaels of the comedy world. It's kind of as good as it gets. So I was really spoiled, and my first time on a superhero, maybe last time, but my experience was fucking wild, dude. It was the most Hollywood shit I've ever seen in my life. Like they built shit like that in like days that it like I there's not stuff I could say because it's all in the movie, but like you'll be like, how are they going to do that in Atlanta? And then you'd show up to this lot and it would just be fully built. And you're like, holy shit. And it's like functional and practical. Like none of it's like fake. Like they built it. It was just like the most, like I said, just the most Hollywood shit I've ever seen. I was like, wow, this is like what like people not in the business think movies all are. Like this is what like I thought as a 5-year-old that this is what movies were. And then eventually you get in the business and you're like, oh, it's a nightmare unless it's like $100 million movie. And it was. So I was just like in awe the whole time. And I remember they'd be like, you're wrapped. I'd be like, it's okay. I could stay. Like it was the first time. Yeah. I would just stay and hang and like I drank it all in. I took full advantage. I had the best time.
Yeah. Very much looking forward to that one.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Seeing what else you might have coming. I mean, King of Staten Island was certainly a big kind of moment for you. Yeah. Looking forward to the future.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
So for those of you watching, subscribe for more interviews and head to goldderby.com to make your Emmy predictions. Pete, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, man.